The traditional leaders are partners in progress to the political leaders of our great country. We don't have any competition whatsoever as regards running the affairs of this country because we believe in changes. And when changes happen, you must accept the change because only Almighty Allah makes changes possible. We're all very aware. Some of us here are very young, but you read history. And if you read history books, you know our institution, the traditional institution, existed before Nigeria came together in 1914. Before we were colonized, we've had Sokoto Caliphate, have Oyo Empire, we have the Great Ife, and other Kanem Borno Empire, and so on and so forth. And the leaders were leading very well with the fear of Almighty Allah, Almighty God. But when we were colonized and we were put together as Nigeria, we still played a role. And until I think the 1976 reforms that took away all the good things the institution stands for, the institution had been doing for centuries. We've had it so good. Now things are really very bad. It doesn't take anybody to know, yes, Nigeria is in a very, very bad situation, and it's a fact. And I'm happy to hear the two leaders of the National Assembly saying that personally and in public. Let's not deceive ourselves that things are all right. Things are not all right. We know it and we feel it and we see it. For some of us, we have seen so much in our lives. My 31 years as a military officer, I don't know where these young officers were when I was still in service, the Chief of Defense Staff and Corps. They were very junior officers. My 31 years took me to Pakistan as a defense advisor. The generals here know what defense advisor does when he goes to other countries. And I covered Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, that's the Gulf states, for 3 years. At the end of my tenure, I came back to National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, for my course. And after the course, 2 weeks before the end of the course, Almighty Allah brought me to this position at Sultan. 2 weeks before I ended, before the graduation ceremony. When I was in NIPS, my paper was on religious extremism as a national security problem. I was a colonel. I didn't know a few months later I would be on this seat. And I researched, talked to religious leaders, talked to political leaders, and I found out what really religious extremism is. And based on my own knowledge as a 3-year DA in Pakistan, covering the most troublesome areas of the world, and it's still the most troublesome area in the world, the Middle East and the Gulf states. So some of us have this experience. From the time I became Sultan till now, for 11 years plus, we've been having such gatherings to talk about Nigeria, national security, development, and whatever. 11 years plus. And I've been here for 14 years plus. We have talked and talked. We have talked at Northern Governors Forum level with all the traditional rulers in the north. We've talked at national level, where I happen to be the chairman and the ONI is the co-chairman of that body. We have talked and talked and talked. In the last 1.5 months, we've had 3 serious gatherings like this with the highest security echelons in the country, with the highest leadership of this country. Today we are here once again to talk on the same issues of national security. I think enough of these talks. Let's walk. Let's walk the talk. Because the more we sit here and talk, the more time we waste in taking real actions. Because we know the problems. I'm not going to say anything here that I have not said in the last 7 years. So I'm not going to give a lecture like the Senate President said. You're trying to give a lecture, but it's important when you come to public forum like this, you say some few things. I wish this gathering is a very formal one where you don't have media, so that I can discuss some of these issues very, very well. You know the problems. And honestly, I thought we are coming to a closed door program with the leadership of the House of Reps and other major stakeholders like the service chiefs, whom we can open up to them. Because some of them know what we feel, what we think about some of the issues, because they know we know what they know. And we collaborate with them. So my own take on this summit, yes, it's important to sit and talk, but it's much more important to implement what we have talked about. We can't just continue talking, and we don't implement. I bet you can come back 3 or 4 months later for another security summit. We will discuss the same things we are going to discuss today, because we don't implement. But it's good that we have such a forum, and I want to thank the speaker for thinking out loud to convene this program. At least we are together from various parts of the country, and it's important that we keep on sitting together to talk. Yes, let's talk. Let's see one another. Let's greet one another, so that will exude hope in the masses that their leaders are talking. But behind the talk, let's go back to serious issues of implementing whatever comes out from such forum, and with honesty, sincerity, and the fear of God. Because so many things we do, so many things our leaders do, you say one thing today, tomorrow you change. You say one thing publicly, and people will clap for you. When you go back in your comfort zone, you throw everything away. That's why I say with fear of God, because whatever you do, God is seeing you. You don't see him, but he sees you. And as leaders, God is going to ask us to account for the leadership he gave us here on earth. And all of us here will account for our deeds here. This is where we can do well, that when we meet our Creator, we'll be much, much happier with him. So I call on our leaders, the political leaders in particular, please fear God. Do what is right. Don't look at ethnic, religious, or personal interests while you are doing your own duties. You've had so many resolutions on the floor of the House. How many of them have been implemented? You need to sit down and talk. You pass resolutions, executive, legislature, have they implemented some of those things? Because you are the eyes and ears and mouths of the common man. But the common man voted for you. They didn't vote for you to come to Abuja and see the beautiful buildings and roads that we don't have in our villages. So know that it's a responsibility placed on you by Almighty Allah, and you will account for it. It's high time we put aside all the ethnic and religious profiling, which was incidentally was our theme for our Interreligious Council meeting, quarterly meeting last week, Wednesday. Ethnic and religious profiling. But that's the issue. Whatever happens, the first thing is they'll say a Fulani herdsman. whatever happens, they say, but when it comes to terms of banditry or whatever it is, there is no, like some of you have already said, stop profiling criminals. Call them by their name, criminals, and then we'll be much happier. Because no ethnic bloc or religious bloc will be happy when every day you keep on calling his own side of the coin the very, very bad one. Even when you know that you are much, much more in number, the good ones are much, much more in number. The very few ones, yes, Fulanis do all these bad things, we know. So do Yorubas, Igbos, Efiks, Ibibios, and so on and so forth. So unless we come together and look at the greater figure, that is Nigeria, and work for Nigeria to move on, we'll continue dropping in the dark and we'll continue having these problems. So when the speaker called me and said, please don't go back, we push this into Wednesday, yes. We are here, we're talking about security, and one of our own, when his time was up, Almighty Allah took him. It's in the service of the country, it's in the service of security. And I told him, well, Honorable Speaker, I will stay back and listen to what you are going to say. I wish I could stay and stay at the technical session also and contribute, because we have a lot. There are so many things that you cannot say publicly with these media people, especially with the worst, the social media. That's the worst. As lawmakers, what do you do? How do you handle such issues of the social media? Because before tomorrow and say Sultan calls for ban, also I didn't say so. I didn't say ban social media. But how do you regulate it? We have seen this thing happen all over the world. Why can't Nigeria also borrow from that? See how we can safeguard our national security for the national interest instead of the individual or other interests. It's important for us. So I hope this security seminar will bring some of these very strong issues out. And when you are ready with your decisions or whatever, you call some of us back, like the National Traditional Rulers, the NAREC, which is a body of the senior religious leaders in the country. We sit together again once more